Kind of like that beat, y'all. I don't know about y'all, but I kind of like digging that beat right there. I don't know, laid back, smooth. Monday, man. Monday. What's going on with y'all on this Monday? Let's turn this music off. Actually, let's run it for another 30 seconds. As people continue to enter, I gotta drink some water. All right now. Let's do it. What is going on, y'all? It is your boy POLK, a.k.a. a.k.a. the goddamn truth. Portal, man. Portal. The portal. The portal is the epicenter of college football today, in today's age, should I say. Is the audio okay? Hold on. Okay, audio's fine. But we have let's see, this past weekend, what did we have? We had Marion Cooper, Travis J, and Micah Pittman. I want to talk about those three individuals, and we've already seen where one has announced where he is going. Not a surprise, right? The high school coach is over there in Boulder, Colorado, so it makes sense for him to go back. Hell, they'll probably add at least one more out of those three, as Travis J's probably another one that makes his way over there to Colorado. And then, of course, Micah Pittman, which is one of the more interesting departures, I think, from this weekend. We're going to talk about all three of those guys. And then I really want to talk about, man, the Deion Sanders experiment that's going on right now. It has been extremely interesting to watch. His philosophy, I don't know if that's the right term to use here, but just his strategical plan on building this Colorado team. I don't know if it's going to succeed. I'm interested in watching it, and I don't know if he's thought this strategy through all the way. But I also don't know if Colorado is 100% sure of what they got themselves into here, because I don't think this is a tenured stay for one Deion Sanders. So we'll talk about all of that. But before we do, as always, man, hit the like button, share the video, let people know we live. I know we live at live on a Monday, kind of earlier than I would usually go live, but I figured let me get it out the way during the afternoon. Maybe people taking late lunch. It's 1:00 here Central Time, so it's about 2:00 on the East. So I, take a late lunch, check me out, whatever. Listen while you're getting through that last stretch of your work day. If you are at work, if you off, sit back and enjoy it with me, because we are off today. So we're gonna talk a little bit of football, but let's get into it, man. Let's start off with Florida State. Let's start off with the transfer portal. Let me mute my phone. Let's start off with Florida State, man. Let's start off with this transfer portal. Let's start with Marion Cooper, right? So Marion Cooper hits the portal. Marion Cooper has not only hit the portal, he has announced today that he will be going to Colorado. That is now three former Florida State players that have made their way to go play for Coach Prime in Boulder. Brendan Gant, Derek McClendon, and now Omarion Cooper. Omarion Cooper was really a guy that I liked his freshman year. I mean, the way he played his freshman year, you would have thought you got a future. At a minimum, you had a future All ACC DB, is what you thought. And then they say injuries happened, and something definitely happened between year 1 and year 2. He lost he looked like he lost a couple steps in his sophomore year that he never was able to regain. People say you lose a step. I feel like he lost a couple steps, and his performance last year sort of got the coaching staff to reevaluate his position, and they decided that they are going to move Omarion to safety. Now, from the jump, didn't like the move. I knew we would probably be moving one of the DBs to safety because Florida State, and we'll get into this a little later as we talk this transfer portal talk, and this safety position that is scary, to say the least. If you're a Florida State fan, you should be slightly worried about what's going on at the safety position because we don't have any bodies. So you had to move Duke there because Sidney Williams, who had eligibility left, gone. Of course, Sam McCall, freshman. You would have got 3 years out of him, but still gone. Jamie goes to the NFL. Congratulations to Jamie, drafted in the 5th round to the Carolina Panthers. Shout out to Jamie, man. Good to see him. We'll be watching him, of course. Gone. Jaquez McClellan. I don't think he signed with anybody as an undrafted free agent, but he ran out of eligibility. Gone. Valuable rotation piece last year that people don't realize. That's 4 safeties. Well, and now Omarion Cooper, and now Travis J. That is 6 players from one position group off the roster. That is a ridiculous amount of attrition. And that's where we stand here with Duke and Jay leaving. I was never a fan of Duke going to I didn't think Duke's skill set fit the safety position. My guess is he felt a similar way. We'll see what position he plays at Colorado. So it doesn't totally shock anybody that I think Omarion Cooper's on his way out. But, man, you wanted to at least keep him, if nothing else, a guy to stay in there who you can rotate. I mean, I put this on Twitter. I don't know if we can't just gloss over the safety position right now. Florida State rotates a lot of them. I mean, just look at last year. Sidney Williams, before he got hurt, Jaquez McClellan, Shaheem Brown, Dent, Jamie. Like, that's what? I just counted 5 safeties. Sidney, Shaheem, Dent, Jamie, and McClellan. FSU routinely rotated 5 safeties last year. Now, that kind of got down to 4 with Shaheem taking that step, and they kind of, Sidney obviously being hurt, kind of limited that more to a 4-man rotation. Man, that's still a lot of safeties that you rotate and played extensively. I mean, at one point, Florida State was fielding a defense last year that they could drop Jamie down in certain situations and have Hakeem and Shaheem play the back end. Yeah, that's what they were doing. And now we come into this season with 2 legit options at safety, Shaheem and Hakeem Dent. I know you got Conrad Hussey. Shout out to Conrad Hussey, but guess what? That's a true freshman that don't get a spring. Yeah, good luck. If he's a dog and if he can play, he can play. I'm never against a freshman getting on the field. Let's just look at the probability that Conrad Hussey able to come in the fall and be that advanced that he's going to get on the field. If he was in the spring, I'd have a little more optimism on that. Quindarius Jones, Kirkland, which one of those 2 are the safeties? From what I gather, they've both been playing corner in the spring. Kirkland did not participate in the spring. Jones had an interception in the spring. But which one of them is really a safety? Man, that Florida State safety room is looking a little thin. Not a little thin. It's FSU's gotta address the safety. And I don't know how many scholarships we have to play with, or should I not say scholarships, but roster spots, as the NCAA did kind of get rid of the scholarship limit, but you still have a roster limit. My screen is flickering. Give me a second as I try to keep my screen from doing this stupid flickering stuff. Hold on a second. Be right back. All right. Maybe that fixed it. Maybe not. We'll see. Hopefully. It was like a screen kept flashing. I don't know if y'all saw it, but I saw it, so I'm trying to fix it. Let me get Jeff out the way. Because I rebooted it, Jeff, I can't get your comment up here, but I'm going to read it. My man Jeff with the $10 dono says, now I know. Well, let me see. Can I put it up there? No, I can't put it up there. But he says, now I know he got moved to safety. That's probably why he went into the portal. But before that, what do you think it was, a mental or physical thing, or both with Duke? Shout out to Jeff with the $10 dono. And I appreciate that, Jeff. I'm going to answer your question right after this. Jeff. Personally, I think it's both. I think when you are used to doing something physically and an injury hinders you, I think you mentally you also start questioning, because your body just doesn't do the things that maybe you were used to it doing. That your natural instincts may have been limited, and therefore then you start to question yourself. Definitely a mix of both of those things, I think. So come on, what are you doing? Sometimes this platform makes me want to go back to StreamYard. There we go. Because it just does dumb stuff sometimes. I like the features it has, but it just doesn't work right all the time. So let's get those two out the way, man. Travis J and Marion Cooper, two safeties. A lot of people were kind of hoping Travis J could get in that mix of the safety spot as we move on from Marion Cooper. By the way, shout out to Marion. Hope he has luck over there at Colorado. We'll get into Colorado here a little bit later. But Travis J now hits the portal and probably ends up at Colorado too. What's going on, KMJ? Interested to see where he goes. Travis J is a guy who I thought he was going to hit the portal initially. You're talking about a guy who's been at Florida State for what? 4 or 5 years? And has been academically ineligible for 2 of those 4 years. His freshman year, couldn't play, academically ineligible. Then the COVID year comes, obviously. He plays 2021. He plays. 2021 he plays. So 2020, that's the COVID year he plays. And they have him at, I want to say, corner or safety. I think they have him at safety. 2021 come, that's the 5 and 7 year. He goes to corner. Didn't look too hot there. Comes last year, academically ineligible. And here we are now. If 2 of your 4 years you're academically ineligible to play football, it's probably, if FSU had been in a healthier spot, Travis Jay's probably already off the roster, if we're being honest. Being that Florida State was in a spot where they kind of had to hold on to all the guys they needed to hold on to. Travis Jay ends up kind of getting more chances and more chances to be a part of this team and so on and so forth. And here he is. He's finally gone. And I can't say that I'm not rooting for him. I mean, you got a guy with all the potential in the world. At least that's all we ever heard. This enormous potential, and he never quite showed it. Hell, and half of the time he was never on the field to show it. So it's hard to say what Travis J was or is. He'll go on and have an opportunity to do what he does, and hopefully he finds a fit, whether that's Colorado, whether that is wherever he decides. Again, that's just another hit to the room, but it's a body. It's a body. At least with Travis J, I mean, hell, he had been in the system for long enough that at least you felt like if you threw him out there, he would at least understand and know what he was doing. But now he's gone. And we just went over that safety room, man. Big moves need to be made for that safety room. And that kind of just leads me to looking at, I peeped at the transfer portal for available safeties. You got some options, man. I'm going to just read off some names that may be names to look forward to, because I think Florida State needs to add. I don't know how many numbers they have to play with here. They need to add 3 DBs. A corner, 2 safeties. It really does. 3 DBs, hybrid guys. 3 players need to be added to that DB room. So even if you bring in a couple corners, maybe you make the transition with Azariah. Maybe you move him to safety, which is a move that I have kind of called for before. That I thought that might fit AZ's skill set a little better. So I would not be mad if he did that. But Jorrell Washington out of Fort Myers played at Louisiana Tech. I'd give him a check. I mean, he's 6'2", about 180. Redshirt sophomore. So you got a guy giving you 3 years of eligibility there. At this point, again, you need some bodies. Cameron Miller, a redshirt freshman, 6'1", 195. He's out of Tennessee, Memphis at that. If I'm Mike, I got it. That guy's got to get a call. I know he's a redshirt freshman. I know he didn't play last year. I don't care. At this point, you need a mix of guys that's going to be an impact guy. So if you can get a combination of, let's say Cameron Miller, okay, that's a guy I want. 6'1", 195. I want that guy. Well, here's the guy that everybody's expecting, right? The guy that we all are looking forward to. Let me find him there. Here's Jalen Key out of Tallahassee, by the way. Went to UAB. Redshirt senior. So this is a guy that's going to come in and he's going to give you immediate impact. Jalen Key's going to come in out of Tallahassee by way of UAB. He's going to give you immediate impact. Now, I'm looking at crystal balls, and they got him crystal ball to Ole Miss, which it's an early crystal ball. We'll see what happens. I believe he takes his visit to FSU this weekend, and it's going to be a 3-day visit. If I'm Florida State, I don't think you can allow this young man to leave without getting his commitment. But Jalen Key's probably the number 1 target on the board. Again, redshirt senior. So he's coming in to impact today. If I can mix Key with Cameron Miller, a redshirt sophomore, it gives me 4 years. That's like getting a whole nother recruit in this past cycle. That's a good combination. Now we're cooking with something. And another name I'll throw out there because I think it's an interesting name, and that's Demetrius Hill. He's a redshirt sophomore out of Miami by way of FIU. 6'2", 190. I like his range, like his size. And if Florida State maybe should try to get in the mix there and see if they can pull that young man to Tallahassee. So there's some options, man. I'm looking at a bunch of options. In the portal. I can name off some more guys. RJ Moten, 6 foot, 220, redshirt senior. Xavier Smith, he's a redshirt freshman out of Georgia by way of Colorado. Colorado's taking all our guys. He's 6'2", 190. Maybe we can look at an Xavier Smith. Another safety out of the portal, Jeremy Mack. By Colorado. you know? So I guess the question is Xavier Smith and Jeremy Mack, one a redshirt freshman, one a junior, are they as good as Travis J and Amarion Cooper? Who knows? Right now, Florida State just needs some bodies. That's just a couple options, man. Um, there's just a couple options in the portal. Um, let's see what y'all talking about in the comments, and then we'll move on to the next guy. Panama says, anyone feels like Mike Norvell has went in the cookie jar too many times in the transfer portal and has ran off some upcoming talent betting on competition? I say keep. Okay. I say keep going in the cookie jar. Anyone feels like Mike Norvell has went in the cookie jar too many times. And has ran off some upcoming talent. Who? Who has he ran off? I'm curious to know who he's ran off. For you to make that comment, I guess you have some idea of who you're alluding to. I don't know who he's ran off. As a matter of fact, I mean, let's talk about it. I think Florida State fans are a little bit overreacting to the portal because we didn't have a big initial portal jump when the portal hit in after December or in December after the season, should I say, after the regular season. There wasn't a lot of players that hit the portal for Florida State, and it felt good, that we weren't having a bunch of guys exit. But we knew, or we should have known. I mean, I warned you, and other people, I'm sure, warned after the spring there was going to be a flux of portal guys. For one, Florida State needed to get below a certain amount of roster spots, and two, guys were going to see the writing on the wall and want to go play elsewhere. That is what the spring does. So I think we're overreacting, but I'm just gonna go read these names off, and you tell me who we ran off by going to the portal, because I don't personally see it. Malik McLean, Micah Pittman, Keyshawn Helton, Trayshawn Ward, Zane Herring, Rod Orr, Lloyd Willis, Jarrett Jackson, Woody, Bishop Thomas, Chambry Jackson, Derek McClendon, George Wilson, Sam McCall, Omarion Cooper, Malik Feaster, Travis J, Sidney, Demori, Amari Gaynor, Brandon Gant, and Steven Dix. Those are your transfer portal. That's every player that has hit the portal up until this point. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 22 players. Who have we ran off out of that mix? The only player that I think we legit ran off is Derek McClendon. And if he had came back, there's no guarantee Gilbert Edmond beats him out. Not from what I saw in the spring. Everybody else, I don't see a transfer that we brought in at any position that ran off any of these other players. Damn sure wasn't no transfer linebackers we brought in. So I'm not so sure. R. Davies says best case scenario is we land Key from UAB and Travis J comes back and we get depth piece. But I don't know why we care. Bro, to be honest with you, a linebacker is not my priority right now. It just is what it is there. Not my priority. And I don't necessarily need Travis J back. Give me Key. Give me a couple more DBs at the portal. Again, I don't know the numbers we have to work with. I don't know if we can add 3 or 4 guys. Don't know. Somebody else probably has that answer. But linebacker is not on my priority list, if I'm being honest with you. As a matter of fact, I would add an edge guy before I add another linebacker. Briley was good. What's up, Insane Mob? Claude the Mogger. Malik McLean, D-Mac, Cooper. So Cooper and Sam were not ran off by any transfer portal guys because we didn't bring any transfer portal guys at their position. Amarion Cooper and Sam McCall, safeties. We literally don't have any safeties, so we didn't run them off by bringing in transfer portal guys. Unless you want to count and say Amarion Cooper and Sam McCall are going to play corner, which obviously they weren't. And then even then, we only brought in Fentrell Cypress through the portal at corner. So again, no, I don't see it there. D-Mac, I agree with, though I think he could have competed with Gilbert Edmond if he had that so-called dog in him like he claims. And then Malik McClain, again, we didn't bring in any portal receivers. He competed with last year's portal receivers in Micah Pittman, Deuce Spann, and Johnny Wilson. Like, you know. And from what I hear, he's gone to Penn State just to be like the fourth best receiver on that roster, which is probably around where he would have been on this roster. So I'm not sure Malik McClain made a very good decision with that. But to each their own, everybody has their own path, and they're allowed to choose said path. But I hear you, Panama. I hear you. The math out of 247 has us at 79. That's a good number. Seems low, but Sonone is a little obsessed with OCD, so I kind of doubt it's wrong. True. So 79, like out of 85, man. Again, that gives me my 3 DBs, and then I can maybe add maybe we can definitely add a linebacker. If the problem with the linebackers, bro, there's not any good. The biggest problem I have with linebacker, would I like to take one? Sure. The portal, if there's one position that I'm probably vehemently, I mean, I know we got Tatum Bethune out of the portal, but if I'm being honest with you, man, there's probably one position that I don't see. It's probably linebacker. Linebacker is probably the one position that I don't I'm not a fan of trying to add a guy out of that. Unless, like, I'm looking at names right now. Oh, here's a familiar name. I don't know if you guys remember this name. We recruited him out of high school. He ended up going to Ole Miss. Then he transferred from Ole Miss, and now he's in the portal again. Mr. Dink Jackson. Probably not a name you need to take if he continues to hit the portal. Obviously, he can't help you immediately if he's a second-time transfer. I don't know, man. If you can find the right guy, maybe. Branding. Here's another name that y'all should be familiar with. This guy has been in the transfer portal every year he's been in college. This is Mr. Brandon Jennings. Yeah, definitely not an option for us. Again, I'm just looking. Here's another guy you guys should be familiar with. We recruited him out of Louisiana. He actually has some pretty good tape. Ended up going to Memphis. Andrew Jones. There's another guy in the portal. Calvin Hart's out of Fort Lauderdale. Man, you see a lot of, honestly, man, you look at the portal, there's a lot of undersized linebackers. There's just not a lot of options, man. There's just not a lot of options in the portal. I'm just being honest with you. I say I would pass, but the 79 number is a good number. You can add those 3 or 4 DBs, like I think. I would like to get another edge guy if you can find one, and maybe you get a experimental backer, maybe somebody you can play with that can just play some special teams or something. As you are bringing in, 2 freshmen come in the fall, in I think it's Brown Turner out of Texas, and of course Blake Nicholson, or is it Nicholson or Nichols, off the West Coast. So, yeah. Kusami says, seen a vid from X's and O's saying Bless is our best live tackle in a long time. How do you feel about that? And do you think starting in the trenches on both sides? I'll answer the first part. I said after the spring game, I said Bless looked like the best offensive lineman on the field. I don't know if he's going to play left. Maybe we even discussed it on the show after that. Maybe they'd move Bless to the left and move Robert to right. It's possible. Haven't seen him play a game, so it's hard to, it's hard for me to go to a spring game and go, he's the best left tackle we've had in a long time. But that bar isn't extremely high anyway. With other than Robert Scott, who have you really had there at that position? So, hey, I'm excited to see Bless. I thought he played extremely well. And he did great jobs against Verse, and every times he was manhandling Pat, and Verse couldn't seem to get off of him either. I thought Bless played extremely well in the spring, so I can understand that thought process. Jeff says, I agree with you. I think we need to add a safety and corner, maybe one edge. If the number 79, we definitely making additions. I'm not worried. Definitely going to make additions. I agree with that. I think we need another wide receiver. I want Keon Coleman with the number being 79. Okay, so if we do 79, let's say we're at 79 and we got it. The 3 DBs have to be a priority, bro. We have we have 2 scholarship safeties on this entire roster because Conrad Hussey's not here yet. And Kirkland and some of these other guys aren't legit. They don't know what they are yet. So you got to get 3. So I'm taking 3 out of that 79 off the bat. So what does that leave you with? 82? So I think then you have another 3 more to play with. If I'm being honest with you, man, I don't know if we need to add anything to that offense. I'm cool on offense. Maybe if you can find the right receiver, sure, take one. But with 3 more guys or 3 more positions to fill after adding the 3 DBs, man, again, give me an edge guy. You lost Antavius Woody and Bishop Thomas. I don't know if there's an interior guy worth taking. I would look. And then linebacker, like Ardavius said, if you can find one. I don't know, man. Wide receiver for me is not that important of a position that we need to be watching. Okay. You brought in Hakeem. You brought in Vandarius Jacobs. You're getting Goldie Lawrence here in the fall. This is the month of Dustin Hill. Yeah, that's right. I said it. You know me. I don't like talking about it. But allegedly, this is the month he's going to show up. I don't see the point of taking a receiver, even if Dustin Hill doesn't show up, which I wouldn't put any amount of money on. I just wouldn't I wouldn't waste the time on a receiver, but he would have to be like a huge difference maker to me. I just, for me, man, I just wouldn't take a wide receiver. That's just me, though. Are you confident with the starting 11 on both sides of the ball? I'm really confident on the offensive side. I'm fairly confident for the most part defensively. The safety position worries me. But the starting 11, like my starting backers, I have 0 issue with. My starting line, I have 0 issues with. I don't know who my starting secondary is. So I believe it'll get figured out. I believe they kind of have an idea who their corners are. Let's just pencil in Dent and Shaheem Brown. But man, do I feel good about a linebacker depth? For the most part, I do. I mean, you got Lundy, especially with FSU playing only 2 backers at a time. Hell, at some points they only play 1 backer and 6 DBs, which is where I think a guy like Shaheem Brown could excel. But again, you got to find that next safety to fill that void. I like Lundy, Deloach, and Bethune. I will admit after that, but even without Steven Dix and Brandon Gant leaving, you still didn't know how those. Maybe Brandon Gant maybe had a little bit more confidence in, but I don't think anybody had any confidence in Dix. Those top 3, yeah, you feel pretty good. I believe Blake Nicholson will be okay, but again, that's a lot to put on a freshman. And then Omar Graham, shoot. Can't forget about Omar Graham. I thought he played extremely well in the spring. It is the spring, the same way we talked about Bless Harris and it just being the spring. But I thought Omar Graham looked extremely he looked good. He looked good. He looked like he's kind of maybe ready for the moment. So if Omar Graham fills that spot, then yeah, I'm fine. I think I feel pretty good about the linebacker depth. What's up, Terrence? He says, "Baby Luke see the field this year?" If he was in the spring, I'd say for sure. Again, it's kind of hard for them freshmen that come in the fall. No, Bless was doing his thing. Bless was doing his thing. He was for sure doing his thing. Touche. Man, a rainbow. If Dustin Hill shows up, I I don't know. Rainbow is the least thing I'm worried. I'm worried about end of the world or a comet or a meteor showing up. That's what I'm worried about. Um, let's go on, man. Let's go on to Micah Pittman. Saw somebody bring him up, so we got to get Micah Pittman out of the way. And then we're gonna talk some Deion and what's going on at Colorado and that whole thing. But let me take a sip. This is the one that's probably the most interesting of the transfer portal. Um, Micah Pittman. Now, here's a guy who we knew had the hip surgery. So a lot of people we weren't expecting him to necessarily play this year. Um, but for him to hit the portal after 1 year of being here, after you transferred here, I don't, man, that isn't. I really would like to know the backstory on him because I don't think Florida State pushed him out, but I can sort of understand his thought process if it has to do with his quarterback situation. Now, this was going to be Micah's senior year. This was going to be his quote unquote money year where he was going to try to make as much noise as possible to hit the league. Well, if you're going to sit out for half of the year, well, that doesn't do you any good. My guess with him hitting the portal, he'll get the medical waiver. He'll be fine for at least one more year. Maybe he doesn't want to play that last year with AJ Duffy or Tate Rodemaker or whoever is the Florida State quarterback. Maybe he doesn't want to put that much stock into a young quarterback, young unproven quarterback in his year where he's going to try to make the NFL. Maybe his thought process is, I'm a transfer because I got to sit the year anyway. I'm a transfer. Maybe he transfers to a place. Hell, he could go to Colorado because Shadur's not going pro yet. And maybe you go to a place with a more stable quarterback position in your senior year. Maybe that helps you. Maybe that gets you where you need to go. That is really the only thing that I kind of makes sense in my mind why Micah Pittman would hit the portal. He seemed to love it at Florida State. Florida State seemed to love him. So I don't think it was a situation where he was forced out of the program. I don't think. Obviously, I don't know. So just a little bit interesting to me why he decided to go. Good luck to him. I hope he finds finds his home or whatever. Um, from an on-field standpoint, the biggest thing with Micah is going to be two things: fielding punts and doing the little things on offense, blocking and all those things that made him a valuable piece, in my opinion. The actual production, I think, is absolutely replaceable. I mean, 300 some odd yards last year, maybe a couple touchdowns. I don't remember how many touchdowns he had. He wasn't that big of a threat offensively. Even on the kick returns, you just value him because he actually fielded the punts. But he wasn't an explosive punt returner by any means. The good thing, I think, is you got a guy in the name of Winston Wright who has experience also in fielding punts and actually can go watch his West Virginia tape. He was actually explosive returning punts and fielding him. So I don't think we lose anything there. That's assuming Winston Wright gets back to it, but I don't think Winston Wright all of a sudden forgot how to field punts just because he didn't play a year due to injury. I think we're fine there. The bigger concern for me is the little nuances on the offensive side of the ball in the screen game and in the run game, where Michael was a dog, man, when it came to blocking DBs and doing the little things and getting down and dirty in the trenches. Michael would do those things. I don't know if there's a receiver that we have that can mimic that. I don't know if there's a receiver that we have that has that same mentality, if I'm being honest with you. With Johnny Wilson being a primary target and some of these other guys, I don't know if there's a guy like I like Ja'Kai. I really hope they utilize Ja'Kai more in this upcoming season. I think Ja'Kai, from a receiving standpoint, can do more than Micah Pittman. I think he's got better hands, more short area quickness, more long distance. He's faster, stronger, catches. But I think he does all those things. I don't know, Mike. I don't know if Ja'Kai has the same mentality blocking, and on plays where Ja'Kai's not gonna get the ball. I don't know if he has that same mentality that Micah has. That's where I think you miss Micah. Again, I don't quite understand it, but my conspiracy theory is that he doesn't want to play next year with an unproven quarterback group. Again, good luck to him. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Briley says, Micah leaving pissed me off, to be frank. Probably won't cost us much due to his injury absence, but dogging Farmer, dog turned into a steak and abandoned his brother to sit up. So he did tweet something. I guess we're assuming. I mean, the timing, it probably wasn't coincidental. As Farmer was hitting the portal, Micah tweeted what he tweeted, and only for him to later do the same thing. You got to be careful what you tweet because people pull receipts, as you can see. And Briley here, yeah, if that tweet was in fact directed at Joshua Farmer, it's not a good look for him, for sure. I don't know if he's a grad transfer or not. My assumption is he's gonna try to get a waiver, an injury waiver, and play next year. That's my assumption. Rumor is he transferred because the school is giving him big money for his YouTube channel. That's interesting. We'll see what happens. So he does have a fairly large YouTube platform with some sponsors and all of that. He gets a decent amount of views. He's got a decent amount of subscribers. He's got a pretty solid YouTube channel over there. I mean, I've watched it myself. It's entertaining. But there's not going to be another Molicious on his YouTube channel. No disrespect to Micah. Molicious was the best thing on that channel. Ain't no more Molicious. So if that is the case, man, I'm interested to see what's that school that's going to pay him all that money for that YouTube channel. And then someone else said Colorado. It was where he had his surgery. Kentron was blocking up field well in spring, but I don't know either. I think Ja'Kai will be a bigger part of the offense this season. Jacobs will be the team's offensive rookie of the year. And Douglas' stock will rise or fall on Wright's ability to regain his pre-injury form. All right. That's all the guys we've had hit the portal. I mean, what do you guys think? Like, I try not to downplay losses, but let's be honest. As I've already gone through, I'll read the names off to you one more time. I mean, Malik McClain, I think we all would have kind of liked to have Malik. But again, that's a deep position group where it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. And then again, he goes to Penn State. And from what I've seen, he's like the 4th or 5th receiver at Penn State. So did you really make a come up, Malik? Maybe not. We'll see. Micah Pittman, we just talked to him. Won't waste no more time. Keyshawn Helton didn't play at all for us last. I mean, Keyshawn, you love Keyshawn. He's a Knoll through and through. But, bro, he wasn't going to crack the field here. I mean, that shows you how far this receiving room has come. No offense to Keyshawn, but he was playing when we didn't have. I mean, we were hoping that Warren Thompson was going to turn into something. Is why Keyshawn Helton's on the field. You saw last year when the play improved, there was just no room for Keyshawn Helton to get on the field. Trayshawn Ward is the guy that we would have loved to keep. I personally would love to keep. I love Trayshawn Ward, but I understand there's some dogs in that room. We just saw Rodney Hill and Toafili and CJ have pretty good spring ball. We know what Trey Benson is. And this guy named Keziah Holmes is still lurking in the shadows. We'll see what that is. Shout out to Trayshawn Ward. Probably the biggest, the best player we lost to the portal by far. Zane Herring, nothing really needs to be said there. Rodor, Lloyd Willis, nothing needs to be said for either one. You just have out-recruited and just brought in better players. Jarrett Jackson, you basically trade Jarrett Jackson for D-Jack. So you're good there. Would have loved to keep Woody. Was a big Woody fan. I would have loved to keep Bishop Thomas. Both of those freshmen I would have loved to keep. But again, you're talking about position group. You're bringing in KJ Sampson. Tafasi's already on the roster. Daniel Lyons looks like he's ready to be the next man up. You just got a lot of depth there, man. You're good. You're good. Chambry was never going to see the field. D-Mac, good rotation player. Would have loved to keep him for depth. He decided to go elsewhere. George Wilson just was never going to play here. Sam didn't give it a chance to play here. Marion Cooper, we talked about him. Malik Feaster, who the hell was that? Travis J. Sydney, would have loved to keep Sydney. If I could go back, I would bring Sydney back, man. Bring Sydney back. Demore is like a Travis J, a guy who you had hold all this potential. He was supposed to be the next great, could never get on the football field. Gaynor, I'm very interested to see what Amari Gaynor does at North Carolina. I just don't think his skill set fits with what we wanted to do defensively. And then Brandon Gant, Steven Dix, two rotational backers that maybe Gant's a little bit more effective, as he had a lot of special teams plays last year. And Dix never really regained his freshman form. So that is that's who you lost, man. That's who you lost. Again, I ain't losing no sleep over none of it, to be honest with you. Farmer would have had me a little bit pissed off. I'm not going to lie to you. Everybody else, not really losing any sleep over any of the transfers we left out here. Word is Utah maybe Micah's transfer. McClain going to ball out. Hope so. As much as last few weeks of portal chaos sucks, the depth and continuity, FSU has once again come out net positive by a mile in portal exchange, and that's before we fill the 4 to 6 remaining holes. Rodney Hill is going to be a dog out there. Campbell runs hard too. Jeff with the $10 donation. Shout out to my man Jeff. He says, everyone that we lost in the portal is not anything that will hurt Florida State. Micah, out of everyone, had the most production as a receiver, but it's nothing we can't replace. Well, Trayshawn Ward was the most productive player that we lost, but I hear what you're saying. And appreciate you, Jeff. Let's start with this one.
Tell her ass on with the Seminoles. I've been getting to this paper, focus on my goals. Trying to run this money up and pull up in a row. All this talking gangster, that shit getting old. Jeff.
All right, man. This is I got to talk about this. I spent an hour on Florida, just strictly Florida State stuff. Well-deserved hour on Portal Talk for Florida State and some key losses and who we might even be looking to fill the safety spot. Talked a little bit about all of that. Colorado, man. Colorado. I am so glued to what's going on up there because the approach is something that we've never ever seen. The numbers are staggering for the Colorado Buffaloes right now. I don't believe there's a way, but if there is a way, I'm assuming that this man finds it. But I don't know if there's a way. I just want to bring up some numbers here, man, for Colorado, because we talked about it in the chat extensively. Colorado had 83 scholarship players on last year's team. Of that 83, 13 remain. That is one of the most insane things that I've ever heard in this sport. Now, if you know anything about football, that is 13 players from last year's rosters on this team. Let's do some more numbers here. Let me go over some more numbers. So, according to the new NCAA rule, the transfers that initially transferred to Colorado, that then transferred again, those already count towards the roster. Deion can't get those numbers back. So out of 85 potential players that he could fill a roster with, he's already handicapped himself down to 81. Think about that for a second. Florida State right now is at 79. But with the opportunity to add X amount, 6 more players, or whatever. I'm not great at math, but you get it. 6 more players. Colorado can, if they had Florida State's numbers, could only add. Colorado has handicapped themselves to 81 players on a roster. 51 players have hit the portal. 19 freshmen haven't even gotten there yet. So those 19 freshmen that they're going to be counting on didn't even compete in the spring to get an eval on what you have coming in the fall. I need somebody to explain to me that's smarter than me, that maybe knows more football than me, how you build a team off of 15 spring practices, kick out 51 players, and think you're going to field a football team in the fall, and half of your team isn't even on the campus yet. Make it make sense. I'm just engrossed with this whole thing. I want to see it. I want to see it. But you're gonna have to really try to make it make sense to me how this works. You got 15 practices in the spring and you clean ship. You cleaned it twice. Make it make sense. Air teeth. Okay, Air teeth, what did I say that was incorrect? And please correct me. I don't claim to be an encyclopedia. Okay, what's the misinformation design? Y'all help me out. Help me out. What am I spreading that's misinformation? I'm just reading off. I'm reading off stuff that I see reported by valid sources. So please, I would love for y'all to tell me the misinformation I'm spreading. I mean, you can look it up. Simple Google search. No argument for me. Many freshmen were there. Give me a number. Because, again, you're saying I'm spreading information, but you can't even give me a number. Of course they had many freshmen that were there early. There were definitely early enrollees. How many of those freshmen weren't early enrollees? Matter of fact, I'll do you one better, my friend. I'll look it up myself. This is what we do. I'm in Tallahassee. I'm with the Seminoles. Colorado. Colorado recruiting class. 247. So, as a recruiting class, Colorado signed, let's count them. So they only signed 19 freshman players. Dylan Edwards is there. Marty McClain has not participated in the spring. He was in street clothes. Adam Hopkins, I don't believe, is there. Didn't see him if he is. Here, let's just click on each individual player. Don't see an early enrollee by his name. How many of these guys are early enrollees? Well, I can't find it. Man, they got a ton of they brought in 36 transfer portal players. They also got a hard commit out of Kareem Harden, who I guess never showed up, never signed. So there's that. So out of 36 transfer portal players and 19 high school players. The best player out of high school, obviously, is Marty McClain. Then you got Dylan Edwards. Adam Hopkins, Omarion Miller, another wide receiver, Taj McCoy. Then it kind of goes downhill there. That's a lot of okay, be back, take notes, you'll go look. Okay, thank you. So again, those are the numbers for you. There's a lot of a lot of players who have not shown up. A lot of the transfer guys who originally transferred also had to transfer back or also transferred back out, which I think that was 4. Let's say for the sake of argument and me not knowing all the exact numbers here, since, I get people in the comments that want to disagree over a few numbers. Sake of argument is the facts are 51 players have transferred out of Colorado. That is a fact. You can't argue that fact. The fact is there's 85 spots on the team. You can't argue that fact. And the fact is that 13 players are remaining from last year's team. And you can't argue that fact. John, what's up? No, man, I'm in the transfer portal. But how do you feel a team like this? If you want to get down to the specifics of the numbers and say, no, you know what? Colorado has out of the 19 freshmen, out of the 19 signed letter of intent, hell, let's do 10. Let's say 10 of those players showed up as early enrollees. They only signed 1, 2, 3, 4 players in the top 300 of the high school ranks. Let me repeat that. They only signed 4 players in the top 300 of the high school ranks. They only signed 5 players out of 19 in the top 600 of the high school ranks. Do the math, and everybody under that is 700 or more. Bunch of non-ranked guys, by the way. What is Colorado expecting? What are the people that want to defend this? What are you expecting to get out of some of these freshmen? Let's be realistic when we talk about really building a football team. Let's be realistic. Who on that team is an instant, who that they're bringing in is an instant contributor? Hell, Cromartie McClain didn't even play in the spring. You really expect him to be an instant impact guy? The man's 6'1", 160. Good luck. This isn't Jackson State. And even Travis Hunter at Jackson State, he suffered with injuries his freshman year at Jackson State. What's going to happen in the Pac-12? This is such a weird way of going about building a team. I don't quite understand the logic of I'm going to take other teams' backups and then try to compete against Pac-12 starters, which is essentially what he's done for the most part. He's gotten a lot of guys out of the portal. I'm just looking over some of these names. I mean, some of these guys ended up going back to where they were from. One of the biggest glaring things I think you got to look at in some of this portal stuff is I'm looking. Bro, there's not a lot of guys there's not a lot of O linemen. Like, I don't know what he's going to do with trying to protect Shadur. You're going to have guys get hurt. I mean, you got one O lineman they got. Oh, he's a freshman, 6'3", 255. The whole purpose, man. Cooper started games. See, here we go. Cooper didn't start last year. Well, he was moved to safety, and he didn't start last year. No one said he was a bum. He had an injury, and he never regained form. And this guy's got to be a Miami fan who wants the cap for Deion. This is what he has to be. And then Hurricane Millie saying stupid shit that I probably shouldn't even acknowledge. This man said he's doing the same thing Mike Norvell did. That might not be the dumbest thing I've ever seen ever. You took RDB so Cromartie could develop. Okay. You took Omarion Cooper, who's one DB. So one DB is going to help Cromartie McClain develop. That don't even play corner. Well, we'll see. We'll see what he plays. This is interesting. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I knew I'd get some of y'all. I knew I would get some of y'all. So here we go. Chris. Hello. What up, Polk? Orlando on the check-in. What's going on, Chris? Orlando on the check-in.
Clickety clank, clickety clank. The money goes into my piggy bank.
Okay, let's I'm gonna play the dumb game with Millie right now because that's what he wants to do. He wants to play the dumb stupid game. Show me 51 players that hit the portal for Mike Norvell. Hell, Mario has had more portal players hit in his first season than Mike. So show me them since we playing the dumb game. Show me 51 players. Show me where we only have 13 players remaining from the original roster. And try to equate what you're talking about right now. Please show me. No, he's been reaching for points this whole time, but we're going to continue to let him try. I haven't bashed one player. I haven't bashed one player. I said he was hurt. If we're talking about Cooper, that is. I said he was hurt. Said he was hurt. So as we continue to talk about this Deion fiasco, usually you use the spring to figure out where you're gonna go, or you're implementing the basics. You're trying to figure out who's gonna be here, obviously, who's gonna go elsewhere, while implementing some basic fundamentals, maybe basic scheme stuff. But you're really like evaluating certain players. Deion Sanders just wasted an entire spring because half of your rosters wasn't here. Not even gonna. Those guys that participated in the spring ain't even gonna be the guys you got in the fall. I don't know. It literally leaves me at a loss for words when I try to talk about how this Colorado team is going to form into a team that's actually going to play competitive football next year. Depth has to be the biggest concern for Colorado going forward. It has to be. Because even if let's say D-Mac, bona fide starter. Let's say Omarion Cooper regains form and he's a starter. Brandon Gant, who's never started a day at linebacker. Let's say he can start at linebacker for Colorado. And the countless other players that you've gotten out of the portal. Where's the depth? Who's backing up Brandon Gant? Who's backing up Derek McClendon? Who's backing up Travis Hunter, who I think is going to be a wide receiver for them anyway? Who's rushing the passer? Who's protecting Shedur's blind side? Because, boy, if he goes down, you might as well forget it. So depth is going to really be a killer for this team going forward. I don't. Theoretically, you should have kept a decent amount of those players from the original Colorado roster, regardless of how many games they lost, there's a reason why that coach got fired, and you bring in the next guy. If nothing else, for guys who can actually be depth pieces for your team. Go back to the comment section real quick. Let's see what this joke's talking about. Delusion from knowing what winners and winning always looks like. So I will exit this funeral. Please exit. By all means, go exit. Go do whatever it is you feel like you have to do, my friend. Telling me what winners look like. Okay. D-Mac, Marion Cooper, and Brendan Gant are going to turn you into winners. Taking every team's backup is going to all of a sudden turn Colorado into winners. If that's the vision, I'm willing to see it and see it through. I just have a lot of questions on the numbers. You originally came in here talking about my numbers were wrong, and you haven't disputed or given me a fact that one number I spewed was wrong. So, again, good riddance to you. Why am I worried about Colorado? Because I can talk about whatever I want to talk about on my shit. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Maurice. Why are you watching? FSU finally wins 10 games after winning 8 in 2 years. Why are you watching? A guy that's an FSU fan that does FSU talk. Why are you watching my shit? I knew it, y'all. See, that when you start talking the Deion conversation, it gets people riled up. It gets them angry. I don't know why. I'm simply asking questions. Have we ever seen a team be built in this manner that has completely thrown out the entire roster and is going to try to bring in a new roster in less than January, February, March, April, in 6 months or less? In 6 months or less, he's going to try to bring an entire new roster. I simply ask the question: is this strategy gonna work? Is it a good strategy? And I got people in the comments mad. They pissed. The man said I clickbaited. The title of the video is FSU Portal Talk, which we talked about for an hour in the Colorado experiment. Where's the clickbait? They came in here to get mad about nothing. I asked a question. And just like that, hook, line, and sinker. Why folks got POLK smoke? I thought people had jobs. I'm off today. I thought we had jobs, but I'm glad. I can prove you wrong. Yeah, exactly, Briley. Exactly. I just asked the question. How is this going to play out? Because I don't. Again, he would have to hit at such an unbelievable rate in the transfer portal that even if he hits at that rate, let's just say that's his starters. Where's the depth? Where's the 2 and the 3 deep? Where, if you get injured at one position, are you screwed? You didn't exactly recruit high schoolers that are going to come in and be immediate impact guys. I'm asking a legit question when it comes to the Colorado experiment. How is this thing going to play out? Because, man, I've never seen nothing like it. I'm going to watch it. I am fascinated by it. Game 1, I will be watching Colorado. You can take this as blind Deion hate, and it's not. I'm asking the strategy. Is it feasible? Is it possible that we're going to see the single biggest turnaround in the history of college football? I'm convinced that this is going one or two ways. You're going to see the single greatest rebuild in the history of college football, or you're going to see one of the biggest dumpster fires we've ever seen. I don't get it either. I said one thing about Deion on Twitter, and I have people treating me like threatening me in my DM. Maurice is a Deion fanboy. Don't mind him. We just had this convo at work because it's a legit convo, Tommy. You can love Prime, you can hate Prime. The conversation is legit. He's doing something that's never been done in the history of the sport. In this day and age, he's essentially treating Colorado like an expansion team. Like he's building this team as if Colorado just came into existence last year. That's what he's doing. Jeff says, oh, my bad. Even though we've had our down years recently, you want to look at history as a winning program, then take a look at Florida State and what we've done in the past 50 years. Appreciate Jeff with the $10.
Maybe Jeff.
Coop says something interesting. Lots of players playing both ways. No depth. Every team will manpower them. I hope a lot of players aren't playing both ways because now you're talking injuries galore. You know? Again, I'm just asking legit questions. Mr. Maurice, now he's calmed down a little bit. He says, we all know the Pac-12 plays no defense. It's not the ACC over there. Okay, but you still got to play USC, TCU, USC, UCLA. I mean, bro, it's still Division I football. Like, we watch TCU beat. Well, now TCU's not Pac-12, but Colorado does play them. I mean, we watched TCU make it to the national championship game. They got steamrolled, but we saw it. Okay? USC was probably, you win the Pac-12 game, USC's in the Final Four. Like, they should be better this year. Bro, it's still Division I football over there. Notice how Millie never responded because I ended that conversation fairly quickly. If Mike Norvell came in and made the same moves Deion's making, he'd be the topic of discussion all over the mainstream sports media outlets. Good thing he's at Colorado. Well, and that was my point when someone said, oh, he's doing what Mike Norvell did. No, the hell he's not. Mike did rebuild. Most coaches rebuild. Mario's doing it right now. Billy Napier's also doing it. But you don't do it to the tune of 51 players. You do it in increment. Get 20 players out here, bring in another 20, get a season in. Now you rotate in the next season, get out the next 20. That's how you kind of do it. You do it in your increments, whether it's 15 to 20 players, you rotate out, bringing your guys rotate out. That's how you build a functional roster. Deion has completely purged the roster and now is bringing an entirely new roster that's not going to get this spring. He pretty much wasted his spring. He's going to go into this fall where he has to not only implement the scheme, the cohesion. He's got to get all these players on the same page that didn't get to play in the spring. He's also going to have to be evaluating the players that he didn't get to evaluate in the spring. This sounds like a mess. It sounds like a mess. Loke Wright says, what is Colorado's record going to look like after TCU, Nebraska? We went over that. If you didn't catch it, me and T2I went over this schedule on Friday. It's a tough schedule. He does not have a schedule. Colorado has 7 rotational DNs. 6 D tackles, 9 linebackers, 6 cornerbacks, 6 safeties. What depth are you talking about? Okay, XY, you sure? Are we counting the true freshmen as these rotational players that you're talking about? I be honest with you, didn't look over the roster, but who are these players? You say 6 cornerbacks, 6 safeties. What depth you talking about? I don't know. I'm just going off the numbers. Because if you count in true freshmen in these 7 rotational DNs you talking about, if you count Cromartie McLean in those 6 cornerbacks, I hope you're not counting Travis Hunter in those 6 quarterbacks because he's going to be a wide receiver, by the way. Are you counting Amarion Cooper in your 6 safeties? Because, man, he just came off an injury. Good luck with that. Yeah, I think I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about depth. You're counting on a bunch of nothing. You're counting on a bunch of teams' other scraps and hoping that they come in and actually are quality football players. I mean, good luck. You can just name a bunch of players that don't make them quality. Like I said, they only signed 4 players in the top 300. 5 players in the top 700. I hope that's not what you're counting on as depth. This brings me to my other point. I'll go off of this comment because Maurice says something that I don't agree with. He says you got to give Deion at least 3 years. The reason I say I don't agree with it because I don't think he's going to be there 3 years. I think Deion is in this for the next 2 years. I think the way he's moving proves that. I think if he was here for the long haul, he would have took a different approach. Deion Sanders is at Colorado as long as Shedeur Sanders still has eligibility in college, which is going to be the next 2 years, and then he's going to go pro. I don't think Deion coaches a down at Colorado after his son leaves. And I think the reason he has decided that this strategy is going to work, or at least give it a shot, is he's trying to make the quickest turnover he possibly can because he's not in it for the 3, 4, 5-year rebuild. Instead, what he's into it in 4 days, he's going to try to maximize Shedeur as much as he can, which is why he went Pac-12, because Shedeur will put up numbers in the Pac-12 because it's the Pac-12 and all quarterbacks do. I'm not even, I'll be honest with y'all, and I know people really might not agree with this. I don't think Deion Sanders cares about winning games at Colorado. I think I think his job, or I think his goal is to shine the brightest light he can on his son, put up the most ridiculous numbers he can with his son, and then get out of Colorado as soon as his son's ready to go to the NFL. I'm telling you, that's my conspiracy theory. I got nothing to back that up. But I don't see it's a guy that's building for the future. I see a guy who's trying to immediately flip the roster in a very unconventional way, but it's there. He's attempting to do it. I'm just scrolling down the comments, y'all. Sean disagrees with that. That's fine. That's my own conspiracy theory, though. I don't think Deion's. If you think Deion's going to be coaching at Colorado for 4 or 5 years, I mean, we all have dreams and aspirations. I just don't believe it. I think he's trying to get Shedeur Sanders drafted. And I think after 2 years, whether or not he goes pro or not is irrelevant. I just don't think he'll coach anymore. I don't think it's a coincidence that he didn't start coaching until Shedeur. He has other kids. Obviously, Shedeur is his favorite. I don't think it was a coincidence that he didn't start coaching till Shedeur got to college. And I believe he stops coaching when Shedeur leaves college. I think that is his focus and his priority. I don't think anything else really is. Because this rebuild isn't how you would normally do it. So I'm not necessarily demonizing it, or I'm not criticizing it. in the sense of you do what's best for you and your kids. I would more so put more onus on the kids and the parents that are like, if I'm a 2025 kid, there's no way I'm committing to Colorado. You feel me? There's no way I'm committing to if 20 till 2024, I probably wouldn't commit to Colorado. Understand what it is you're looking at as a parent and a high school player. I hope some of these high school kids got parents with good heads on their shoulders. Because I say that because a lot of times you see how some of these people move, and you're like, man, how did the parent allow this to get to this level? Again, I'm not criticizing it necessarily in the sense of he's got to do his best for him and his family for sure. But I mean, when you're the coach of that level of a football team, of a program, Colorado has won national champion. I know they've won a national championship. I don't know how many. There was a time where Colorado was a name in college football, where Cordell Stewart and guys like that. Some of these, when you take on that responsibility, you do have other kids and parents putting their faith in you as a coach. I don't know how I look at this situation, and that's one of the main things I would ask. That's one of the main things I would ask any player, any parent. Would you send your kid right now to Colorado? And I'm not talking about if you had a 5-star stud. If you had a 3-star player, hell, low 5-star player, would you be comfortable sending your son to Colorado, knowing that there's a good chance he's going to dismiss them? That kind of is my question. I think any parent that's reasonable would hesitate. I really do. I think they'd hesitate. Now, if you're Cromartie McLean, you don't hesitate because no team is going to turn down a Cromartie McLean. But if I'm one of these middle-of-the-road transfer portal players, I don't know if I go. I mean, I don't know. He's already had guys that have transferred there and had to retransfer. What is that about? So these are all valid questions that I came to ask. I didn't know I would stir the pot to the point where people would I didn't know I'd stir the pot to the point where everybody would get offended. Not everybody. The few that's in the chat that feel like I'm clickbaiting and I'm spewing misinformation, haven't spewed a drop of misinformation. Everything I've said you can look up. Let me get to the dono. $2 dono from First Class Media says, you're right. He's in it for himself and his boys. And again, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But as a head football coach of Colorado, you kind of have to be in it for not just yourself and your boys. Appreciate the dono, man. More money. More money. At Jackson State, he got rid of 71 players. But the big difference for me at Jackson State was the allure of Deion and HBCUs and the message he was selling. And I'm not going to get into that conversation because I've kind of had that conversation before. But the initial message that he was sending at Jackson State was different. And so he was able to definitely upgrade Jackson State roster, even though he got rid of 7. Like, you got to understand the levels of football, right? I can take backups at Colorado. We'll use that as an example, or Michigan State or Florida State for that matter. And they can come to Jackson State and thrive. Of course, that doesn't translate laterally to Colorado that is trying to upgrade the talent. And I don't know if Michigan State's backups are upgrading I don't know if Old Dominion starters, which is guys he's taken like that. Is Florida State backups going to help you beat USC? I don't think so. What's up, Jerk? He says it's important to note me as well. Love to see him prime at color. Said it when he first took the job. I was like, I love it. Want him to do well, but objectively, it looks like he's got no plan. Aside from the quick pump and dump. Antoine says, Deion is the dream that almost all college, high school athletes desire to be. That's a fact. You still have to be coached correctly at the end of the day. Maurice says, Jerry Henry, exactly. As a Noel fan, Deion is legendary. He is a Noel, blooded for real, but it does not look great just being real. Ivante, let them know. Like the video. Please, by all means, guys, please hit the like button. Matter of fact, please hit the like button. I got something for you. Smash my like button like Greg Jones smashes DBs.
Go your motherfucking ass to sleep. Whoa, shit, what the fuck good buddy hit me with? I told him I wasn't sleepy. He had to have a brick in that bitch.
Mr. Maurice is not offended. Just don't understand why people aren't objective. I think I am being very objective. It's not about fail. It's about the process. This process, again, is unprecedented. If he succeeds, I'll be right back on here saying what an unbelievable job he did. I just fail to see it right now. It's never been done in this manner right now. We are no longer at HBCU Jackson State taking everybody else's. We're not doing the trickle down effect here in Jackson State, where even a team's second and third stringers from the Power 5 level was better than most of what the HBCU world had to offer. I'm sorry, but D-Mac and Brandon Gant don't beat TCU, Stanford, Utah, UCLA, or USC. I'm just being real with you. And that's coming from a Florida State fan. If you get Travis J, again, he doesn't win those games for you. It has less to do with his ability and more to do with the fact that the program he's inherited is atrocious. I'll take a lot of time for them to get it out the gutter. First Class Media says, don't do it, Polk. These trolls will really be on your head. No, that conversation I've had that conversation before. And I'm not going to have that conversation right now. Me and Jurg have had that conversation. Believe it or not, me and Jurg are probably on the opposite side of the fences on that particular conversation. Old Dominion had 3 guys drafted. Shout out to Old Dominion. Did Deion get any of those guys, or did he get so that kind of irrelevant? But shout out to Old Dominion, man, because Florida State only had 1 guy drafted. So that's what's up. That is what's up. What's up, D. Thompson? Really nothing to lose with Prime. Team was 111. Anything he does is an improvement. See, I guess. Like I guess. I don't know by that logic, I guess. I can't if we're just debating wins and losses, then sure, maybe you're right. You know, I thought, but see, this is where we get into that this is where we get into that touchy subject of wins and losses and what is it really about, because for whatever reason, when Deion is doing what he's doing and it's fine and it's fair, we just talking wins and losses. If other coaches do it, then we talk about, well, what happened to developing kids, what happened to relationships, what happened with doing what's best for these young men. See, we pick and choose when we want to talk about wins and losses and when we want to talk about the young men. Oh, and this is about kids, and this is about developing young men and developing kids, and I don't know, being a damn football coach. I get it. At the end of the day, his job is to win games and lose games. I get all of that point, but what are we really talking about? What is it? What do y'all really care about as college football fans? Because I hear all these different points. We want an NIL for the kids, but we don't give a damn if Deion Sanders kicks 51 people out of the off of his team with nowhere to go, so to speak, and guys who have already came and used the transfer portal. So now they got to sit a year. Like we don't care about any of that. We just care about, well, they were 1-11. No matter what he does, it's going to be an upgrade. Fair enough. Again, I ask you as a parent, would you send your son to play for that type of situation right now? Would you allow your son to use his one free card to potentially go there and be told, you know what, you ain't good enough. Goodbye. Because I don't know. At this point, if he doesn't get into a bowl game, it's a failure. He indirectly blaming all those kids for that program being away. And Jurgen brings another great point. Shout out to Jurg. Are we blaming the kids last year for them being 1-11? Or are we blaming the coaches? Again, see, I know how y'all fans do. I know how fans do. And fans have a tendency when we like a coach, we blame the players. And I'm going to take a shot at Miami. I'll take a shot at the Florida State fan base to a degree as well. Mario couldn't win with Manny's players. Wait till Mario gets his own players. It's not Mario's fault because we all love Mario. It's Manny's players' fault. We did the same thing with Mike Norvell. It's not Mike Norvell's fault. He's taken over Jimbo Fisher and Willie Taggart's leftover players. Let Mike get his own guys. And to a degree, those are some fair points. But the coach has already been let go at Colorado. Is the coach not responsible for again, Mr. Pryor up at the top said they were 1-11. Anything he does. So is the coach not responsible for 1-11, or is it all the players' fault for being 1-11? Whose fault is it? Or is it possibly the coach and the players' fault? It's a mix of it. But we're at this point where we're simply just saying, well, all the players suck to get it in a brand new breed of players. I mean, that's tough. That's a tough message to send out there, is that all you guys sucked. So that's why I'm bringing in my own. I mean, that's the message he sent from day one. I'll give him that when he came in there. All you guys suck, and I'm bringing in my own guys. If there's one thing I'll give him credit for, he didn't lie. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I will give him credit for that. I will definitely give him credit for telling people that they sucked, and he's bringing in his own guys. My question becomes, when does coaching become something we judge a coach by? Because for every Mario Cristobal that gets the excuse, not saying all Miami fans gave him the excuse, but for every Mario that, he can't win, he couldn't win because he got Manny players, there's Sonny Dykes. There's Elko at Duke. Dykes at TCU, who took another coach's players and won a lot more games than the previous coach did. So is it the players or is it the coaches? Because TCU goes with the first-year head coach to the national championship. The same players that the previous coach had. And what did they win that previous year? 4 games? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Whatever TCU won the previous year before making the national championship. First-year head coach. So is it the players? He didn't go in there and say, man, all you TCU players suck. I'm bringing in my own guys. What did he do? He coached them up and got them to the Natty. Elko comes into Duke, coaches them up to 7 wins? Is it the players or is it the coaches? See, that makes you think, doesn't it? Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. They went 1-11. But these are people that don't understand what it takes to even build a football team, let alone sustain one. But again, I don't think he's there for sustainment purposes. Loke says, legit question. At the end of the day, will Coach Prime and staff be able to develop these kids, or will they get crushed under his ego and bravado? I think it's a legit question, Loke, but that's been the whole point. Because you can bring in whoever you want. Are we developing kids or not? Because I'm going to say this, and I don't know who's going to agree with this. I don't think a lot of development went on at Jackson State. They were just naturally more gifted than everybody at that level, which is why they won a ton of games, though they couldn't win the big one. But that's neither here nor there. I don't think a lot of development went on at Jackson State because it didn't need to happen. It's like a high school team playing the Pop Warner team. Are they getting better in playing these Pop Warner schools, or are they just running roughshod through them? We know the answer. That's essentially what Jackson State was doing. And when they finally came up against a team, the glaring issue with Jackson State kind of became when they kind of came up against some adversity, they tended to struggle. That's a whole, see what I'm saying? But see, Jerg is getting to the point that I'm simply alluding to. Are we coaching, or are we just getting players? See, that's what I'm saying. No one wants to hold Deion to that coaching aspect of it. Oh, they went 1-11, purge the roster. Fine. You still got to coach. You still got to coach these young men up. You can get all these transfer portal kids all you want. The same people who ridicule Mike Norvell for going into the transfer portal and getting players are now praising Deion for going into the transfer portal and getting players. You got to make it make sense to me. At the end of the day, I thought coaches were gauged on how you develop your players. Kevin says, unfortunately, college football is an ugly business. I agree with that. Person don't like it, but it is the system. Colorado just puts their stuff for the world to see. Well, Deion puts his stuff for the world to see. And we all know a lot of programs, they push guys out, just not to the tune of 50 plus. But it is a dirty business. I agree with you there. Well, I was just using Chris Sabol as an example to the point I was really trying to get to. And I use Mike Norvell to the same example. We have a habit of when we like a coach, we give him that buffer. We give him that excuse of those aren't his players. But other coaches have shown that they don't need that buffer. Now, obviously, yes, Mario he's going to go into this next year, improve or whatever he's going to do. Mike took him 3 years to get it together, got it. The point is, when we like a coach, like we like Deion, we say it's the player's fault. He's got to get his players. But I can list off a decent amount of coaches who didn't need that excuse. Fanboys are the problem with honest criticism of Deion. Was a fan, then I grew up and saw the man, not the player. I'm still a fan of him. I hate to criticize a person as a man that I don't personally know, so I don't go that route. And as a player, there's not much to criticize. But I can understand where you're coming from, Damien. I'm not disagreeing with you. Does it look like Deion is interested in developing? Me and Jerg talked about this extensively. Jerg's basically bringing up our talking points, which is fine. He's doing all the things that I was going to do anyway. He let a 6'8", 320-pound freshman walk. Now, you can't tell me that guy's trash. You can't. Listen, I don't know how good that player is, but Deion don't know good how the 6'8", 320-pound freshman is either. You need offensive linemen. At worst, he's a second stringer. We are talking about development. You don't let 6'8", 320 just walk out your front door without even trying to develop said player. These are the things that I am alluding to when we have this conversation about the Colorado experiment. But again, to my own conspiracy theory, I don't think he's in the business of developing. That kid doesn't help Shadur Sanders right now, probably. I get it. So now he's going to go try to find something that can. But 6'8", 320, there's not too many schools that wouldn't be interested, at least in his body type. Bama would take that kid, and if he and at least keep him on the roster for a year and see what he was before getting rid of him. You didn't even do that. Oh man, you wasn't paying attention, Mr. Maurice, if you believe that. He was a redshirted freshman that didn't get to be evaluated by Deion. I know he was on the bench, but you got to at least. Deion didn't evaluate that young man. So, Mr. H, you go back to the beginning of the show. We talked about FSU and transfer portal, and we've been talking about Deion for the most part of the last hour or so. We'll go here for a little bit more, and then we'll finish this conversation. No, you good, Jared. You good. Keep it coming. Y'all not giving coaches credit for doing their job. There is an offensive line coach there. Deion did hire position coaches. How much do you evaluate that said old lineman in 15 practices, though, bro? I don't know, Mr. Maurice. I feel like you're just you're making a lot of excuses. Can I pose a question? And I don't want to make it personal. I just want to pose a question. And I don't want to make it personal, but did you play organized sports? You don't have to tell me what level because I don't care. But if you did play organized sports, my next question would be, you probably had good and bad coaches in your experience. I would love to know what made a good coach in your experience as a player. What is, in your opinion, what is a good coach? Because I guarantee you're going to name a lot of things that I don't see happening right now in Colorado. Because I don't know too many good coaches that would dismiss you without a proper eval. I'm a XY. I would ask you simply one question. If you're a Colorado fan, wouldn't you like to have kept 6'8" freshman Travis Gray? Just a freshman, bro. A kid has a ton of football left in front of him. Hasn't even scratched the surface of how good he potentially could be. If you were building a program, wouldn't you want to keep him on the team? Just my question to you. Timber says, yes, I played at a high level. A good coach is someone who makes you better man on and off the field. Someone who keeps it real even if I don't like it. And to Deion's credit, I do think he's keeping it real. I just don't know if throwing them out to the portal is the way to go about making them better. And I guess to your first portion of your comment here, that makes you a better man off and on the field. Some of those players won't experience that coming from Deion Sanders, of being made a better man on and off the field. And the unfortunate part of it, and we'll finish on this because we're reaching 2 hours and numbers are dwindling a little bit. We were at almost 100, now we're at 74. But we'll finish with this is some of these kids ain't been given a chance to be made better men on and off the field. And as a matter of fact, it almost seems like he's picking and choosing what players he wants to make better men on and off the field. One of the biggest issues I've had with Deion, even at Jackson State, was the amount of favoritism he shows towards Travis Hunter And I get his son, but he shows a amount of favoritism. And listen, I'm not naive to think that coaches don't have favorites. Hell, parents have favorites. I'm not naive to believe anything else. But as a person who's been in charge of groups of people, you have your favorites. You learn to not show them in a public setting. My goal as a leader, again, as a person who's been in charge of groups of people, is even if I have a favorite here, I need to push this person to try to be here with my favorite. I don't feel like that happens, but this is just me looking on the outside. Prime has a very outward appearance of, I don't even know if that's the right way to describe it. You know who he likes, and it almost seems like he has no interest of even entertaining those that he doesn't like to bring him to that level. So I don't know, man, it's an interesting question or an interesting point. But I appreciate all the great dialogue we got from people that actually wanted to have dialogue. Mr. Maurice, I was hard on you at first, man, but I appreciate you sticking around and actually conversing back and forth without the insults like some of the other people who came into the chat decided to do. But we handled those abruptly. And everybody that conversated back and forth, man, I really appreciate it. I think this was a good conversation, man. And again, it's just nothing wrong with talking about it, bro. Nothing wrong with talking about it. I'm watching it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch Colorado. First game of the season. I'm going to have it tuned in because I want to see what that team looks like. Shout out. Yeah, I caught that. You a Kings fan. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you, Kevin, for subscribing. Thank you for coming. Hey, since we got a new subscriber, man, let's go ahead and give Kevin some love. Yeah, since let me do this one for you, Mr. Maurice.
Bitch, be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Appreciate you, Zay. And Mr. H says, no lies told in what you said, Pope. That was one thing that I got tired of looking at him when he was at Jack State. It was if nobody else was on the team but his sons and Trav. Hey, thank you, Maurice Lovelace, and thank everybody else who tuned in. Hit that like button on the way out, man. If you didn't hit it on the way in, continue to share the video, man, so we can get more new subscribers like Kevin Pryor. Let's get more subscribers over here. Let's continue to grow our community. As always, y'all, it's your boy POLK over here on 863 Seminole TV. Stay classy, Seminoles, and we are out. Cheer. You have a great rest of y'all Monday.